Okay, friends, we talk about A Haunting in Venice with John Paul Kelly, production design. Nice to meet you, John Paul Kelly.
Very nice to meet you too, Eduardo.
Okay. Great teamwork makes great films. We know the roles of actors, directors, screenwriters, but what do you do in production design, John Paul Kelly?
Okay, so my responsibility is pretty much everything that isn't an actor. So it's the environment that the film is set in. So in the case of this, it was about imagining how Venice should look, and most importantly, how this palazzo that the story is set in should look. So I would start very early in the production with the director. So I met with Kenneth Branagh and we visited Venice together, and we decided fairly quickly that it would be great to film in Venice, but that we could only film a lot of the exteriors and some of the early stuff in the story, but the palazzo itself we would need to build in the studio. So my responsibility was to imagine what that would be and to get it built with an amazing team of technicians who could build it with us.
This is a great human job. In fact, the strikes in Hollywood have taught us the importance of every job in films. What can you tell me about the human work that is done in production design?
So in production design, do you mean the kind of process?
Yeah.
Yeah, the process. So yeah, so I would start by researching very carefully the period, but also what's very interesting in this story, particularly, is that the house where it is set is a character in the film. It's not just a setting. It's actually potentially one of the suspects in the film. It's potentially one of the people who could have done it, like an actor. So it has got it's got a prominence that's very, very unusual. So the process of what we would normally do is you would research what that building is like. So I would go to Venice and see all the different palazzos. I came up with ideas, which I would then go to Ken Branagh with, and then I would go back with those ideas to my art team, my art directors, and together we would design what the building should look like. We would then build computer models of maybe what the space would look like. And the first thing I would maybe work out with the director is that you can tell the story within that space, that the actors can move from set to set. You can reveal the story in the way that the script intends you to. And then once we agree on that, we then build a very big physical model of the set, which we decide practically how we would build it over different stages. So we had it set over 4 stages. Of one stage would have had a tank built in it so that we could have gondolas arriving at the palazzo, and then you could go through the doors of the palazzo and you would go inside the cavana where the gondolas disembark. And then the next big set would be the Piano Nobile and all the rooms off it. So that would be libraries and antiquariums and dining rooms and music rooms and kitchens, and all of those would operate as one big composite set where you could move between all those spaces. And the next set is the bedroom floor and the corridors, and these labyrinthine corridors of a confusing space where the girl is kept like a bird in a cage in her room. And then finally we built a very large exterior set as well, which is which was built as a scale model. So it was 1/3 scale, but it was still the size of maybe 2 tennis courts. So very huge of the exteriors. So we could have rain bashing against windows and gondolas crashing against the side of the building and so on. And then the next part of the process is to draw up in detail all of these sets. And then once we then get a construction company involved, and the construction manager and the teams would then have head painters, head plasterers, head carpenters, and I would have the scenic artists and so on, and they would build the set. And at that point, I would bring in the set decorator, who is Celia Bobak, a very famous collaborator with Kenneth Branagh, who's worked with him for years and years. And she would put all the furniture and the dressing on the set to make it look realistic for the period. So that's pretty much the process. Until we get to kind of 2 weeks before filming, and at that point, I would then hand the set to the director and to the cinematographer who would light it for the shoot.
Wonderful. John Paul Kelly, nice to meet you. I am
Really
from
nice to meet
Mexico,
you too.
and okay, thank you very much.
All the best. Bye-bye.